Welcome back, guys, after the midterm. I hope you're all nice and rested. So we're going to start a new project this week, and we're going to take a look at using spreadsheets to work out how much tax you have to pay. And we'll also imagine that we are working in a company and that we just want one form for all the company's employees that we don't have to work out John's and then Peter's and then Paul's. Okay, we just do it once, and then we should be able to put in whatever salary they earn per year, and it should tell us how much tax they have to pay. So we'll talk a bit about the Irish tax system in this first lesson, and we'll also talk a little bit about spreadsheets. So that's the kind of the aim here today. So I obviously want to call this income tax. Sorry, I don't obviously want to call it income tax, but I want to call it income tax. So that's the name of my of this spreadsheet that we're going to be dealing with here. Okay. So it's called income tax, and that's the book of spreadsheets. We have sheet 1 down here called income tax. Now, we're going to put in some headings. Okay, so I'm going to call this thing here is where we're going to write loads of stuff. So we're going to make that slightly wider, and we do that by going into the column somewhere in it. And once we're in that column, we can then bring our mouse over to the border, and we see the little black arrow going both ways. And if we left click, we can then drag to any width we want. That just makes it kind of neat so we can see what we're actually typing in. So I might leave a few lines blank up the top, okay? And I'm going to put in gross pay, or gross salary, maybe a bit more official, gross salary. And we want to put in standard rate cutoff. Okay, so I'll explain what each of these things are once we get them in. Standard rate. I've never really learned when something gets highlighted like that how not to use it. I think that's computers being probably too smart. Higher rate and tax credits. Okay, so, and we're given some information. So let's say this person, their gross salary, that's the amount of money that this person earns for the entire year. Okay, it's 36,000. So before the government goes anywhere near this, that's what gross salary is. Okay, it's the amount of money that you get before anyone touches it, before your union takes any money away, before the government takes any money away, before your health insurance takes any money away, before your pension scheme takes any money away. It's just straightforward what you earn before it's touched. Now, we also have the standard rate cutoff, and I'll talk a bit about that in a second, but I'll just put in the figure for the time being. It's 24,700. And now, the standard rate. Okay, so if you're just your average sort of a worker and you're earning your standard wages, you will probably end up paying the standard rate mostly, okay? And the standard rate is 20%. Right, so it's 20%. That is the standard rate. And I'm not, just to remove hassle for the time being, I'm going to leave it at 20, okay? But it is 20%. Now that we know, so you will pay 20% of your wages over to the government if you're paying the standard rate of tax. And every single cent that you earn up to the standard rate cutoff is taxed at 20%. If you go above 24,700, which this person here has gone up to 36,000, okay? So therefore, every single cent above 24,700 will be taxed at 40%. And we call that the higher rate. So in Ireland, there's two different rates of tax. There's the standard rate and there's the higher rate. The standard rate taxes everything at that rate up to the standard rate cutoff. Every single cent above the standard rate cutoff is taxed at the higher rate. There are also these things called tax credits. So these reduce the amount of tax you would otherwise have to pay. So if you're doing things that the government thinks are worthy, they will give you tax credits. Okay. So that's basically the information that we need to work out what this person's income tax will be. So I'm going to maybe just play around with it here and we'll see what we can do. So our gross salary is 36,000 and our standard rate cut-off is 24,700. So we immediately want to find 20% of 24,700. And I'm going to put that in here. I'm going to call that tax at standard rate equals. And in here, I'm going to put in equals. Now, it's 20%. So it's that divided by, so we can use our forward slash for that, 100. And that's 20%. So that's the same thing as 20%. So I divide what the standard rate is by 100. And then I multiply that by, so that's star, multiply that by the standard rate cut-off, which is 24,700. So every single cent up as far as 24,700 will be taxed at 20%. And in here I'm going to put in tax at higher rate equals. So the tax at the higher rate, well, now this is a bit more interesting, okay? This time it's going to be 40%, so it's this divided by, Control Z. Okay, so it's this thing, sorry about that. It's this thing here. So we're going to put in a formula, so it's equals, start bracket, this thing divided by 100. And that's the percentage. So we're going to find 40% of something. So it's of means multiply. So it's star. And we'll need brackets for this again, because it's going to be every single cent above 24,700, but less than 36,000. So the amount of money in there, the amount of money in between 24,700 and 36,000 is 36,000 minus 24,700. So this person will have to pay 4,520 euro at the higher rate. We're then going to call this row here, we're going to call it gross tax equals. Now gross tax is, well, if he has to pay that amount of money at the standard rate and that amount of money at the higher rate, well then the amount of money he will have to pay in total is equal to this plus this. And if I hit enter, I should get the answer. Good. Now, the next thing that this person has is tax credits. So this person has tax credits. That's kind of useful. And his tax credits were equal to this line here. Okay, that's pretty good. Now, tax credits reduce the amount of tax you will have to pay. So instead of this person paying 9,460 euro, this person will only have to pay this figure here, take away this figure here. So this person will only have to pay 5,860, so we call that his net tax. So we have gross tax and net tax. Gross tax is the bigger of the two taxes. That's the piece of tax you could end up paying if it wasn't reduced. So gross is a kind of a fancy word for the big one, okay? So the big tax that you could end up paying was 9,460, but because you get these tax credits, it gets reduced down to 5,860. Now let's just check that our system is still working. So what about if one year on budget day the government say, right, we're going to lower the higher rate of tax down to 39%. And that changes everything here, okay? It shouldn't change this figure and it shouldn't change this figure. Let's see what happens if you have to pay, I don't know, what would happen if there was only one rate of tax? What about if they were both 20? So we only pay 3,600. So let's knock this back up to 41. Okay. Or was it 40? I think it might have been at 40. So we can check things using. So I just key in the change and I hit enter or return. What about if this person earns a bit more? What about if he's a footballer? And in a year, so he's playing for Cork City, and in 1 year he earns €1 million. And why didn't that change anything? I don't know. I expect that to change something. Let's change that into 37,000. Yeah, I don't know what's after going on there. Sorry, guys. B3. The reason why I didn't change anything is because I keyed in 36,000 up here, but really, look at that for a mistake. What I should have keyed in. So it's always good. So this is a perfect example of me checking my results and finding a mistake. So I actually found this mistake. It wasn't a deliberate mistake. I made this mistake. Okay. So that 36,000 there, that could be, instead of 36,000, it could be B3. So let's delete, and then B3. And now we can start playing around with our footballer for Cork City. What would he earn near? 1,000 or 1 million? Okay, so if this footballer is taxed at the regular rate of tax, so he's not declaring himself to be an artist or anything weird like that, he has to pay €391,460 in tax. Okay, so every year he basically buys the government a house if he earns €1 million, and not only any house, but quite a good house for 39,000. For 391,000. So I'm going to leave it at that. Over the next week we will look at turning this annual thing here into monthly and weekly, and we'll look at maybe introducing a form and things like that to it. Okay, so that's where we're going for the next week, and hopefully by the end of the week we will have the official government figures in, and we will also have it'll look a bit nicer than this, and we will have a tool that an employer could use to work out an employee's tax rather than having to work it out each time. So that's where we're going this week. So I'll see you guys again tomorrow.